Austin and I are funeral friends.
What does that mean?
One of you has to get rid of the other's porn collection if
Yes.
they die?
Yes. Clear my history. No, like, we're the kind of friends that lifelong. It's like, I'm going to be at your funeral, you're going to be at mine. I'll bury you, you'll bury me.
Well, both can't be true, though, right? Unless you time it.
One or the other is
Pick
true.
One or the other, yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
You've said that before. How did you... I
Have I?
feel like you guys have had conversations about this.
This is planned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a death pact.
Yeah, it's Death Pact. Have we talked about it before? I don't know. I feel like there's like, I mean, look, you can only have 6, right? That's the standard amount.
6 Death Pact friends? How do you make
weird
a
way to
cult
look
like
at
Is that
it.
what Friends is about? Is that what Friends is? There's 6 of them.
Yeah, they're all dead. Wait a minute. Daniel Lindelof was a writer on Friends.
Amazing. I feel like
There's no way they could have afforded that apartment in New York. That's what it was.
No, they were haunting it.
They were haunting it.
do you think you look like more of a shitty person if your funeral is too overpacked? Because then everyone's like, everyone here liked you?
Yeah, small cliffside.
Oh.
I don't go to funerals unless I know the person.
No, what? Do other
Also,
people?
I love the
Yes.
crowded ones. The crowded ones are great. Like when you know someone was genuinely my favorite funeral. Weird thing to say. My granddad was like this like beloved guy in his village. He was basically, he had 2 jobs. He was the grave digger, and he rang the bell in the local church.
Yes, King.
And so
Nobody
he
but
knew
a
the
Brit could
entire
tell this
community.
story.
You're right.
There-
It's the most
This
British
is a
thing I've
true
ever
fact.
heard.
A TV crew once shot a documentary about him because he was such like an institution in this kind of village life. Like,
Wow.
and it's brilliant because he's just complaining about like, I'll never go to London because people step on your feet. And he was a man from a completely different era who somehow was around in the modern day.
I love that.
And he but the best part I remember, because it was just his funeral in little village church, just overflowing with people because the entire village shows up, and towns around, because this guy is just known by everyone. He's been around all these families for decades. But the thing that annoyed him most in his last few years was that his village was getting a surge of like rich people basically moving to this nice picturesque village, and it annoyed the hell out of him. So what he used to, and they used to complain about him ringing the bells because it made too much noise on a Sunday when they were trying to have a lie-in. So that church rang its bell for hours on his funeral. It kept they had a procession of
That's
every like old
awesome.
village guy kept that bell ringing for like 8 or 9 hours straight just to piss off the rich people who moved into
That
town.
is really
Why?
good.
Because it's your grandfather.
It's like-
Yeah, he's a cunt. Ding, a ding, a ding, a ding.
That's a funeral. That's how I want to go.
Who was
bunch
this?
of people
His
I didn't have
grandfather.
audio.
My grandfather.
On which side of the family?
Oh, my mother's.
Why did you
And
ask
what's her
that?
social security number?
It contextualizes.
Also,
What
hi,
was your
welcome,
first
Austin.
pet called? Mike? Yeah.
Just curious, what street did you grow up on?
I want to know all these things.
Amazing.
I want to know my friends. Like, what's your blood type?
Yeah,
I-
exactly.
What's your mother's
I
maiden
got
name?
pretty upset at myself the other day when I realized that I don't know all of my friends' favorite Pokemon. It just feels like a thing that I should know about everyone I'm friends with. I think everyone has one. I don't think it matters.
Not me.
Shut up,
Yeah,
Austin. You're
I'm
a
with the guy
might be
that's...
Jigglypuff
This
guy.
might be a generational thing, potentially.
It would only apply to my friends who like Pokemon. And hey, I have plenty of friends your exact age, Mike Bithell, who like Pokemon. Okay,
So
it's
does that
just
mean that you
weird.
can have no friends that aren't into Pokemon?
No, if they don't like Pokemon,
Never a
it's
true
okay. I will
friendship.
assign them one, like I just did with Austin and Jigglypuff.
Okay, yeah.
You'll be assigned.
Oh,
a
I
Pokemon.
want one.
Oh,
I want
okay.
one. What's mine?
Mike
What's mine?
What is
Bithell,
mine?
you're an Alakazam. Troy.
Okay, that's the one with the little like mustachy beardy
Yeah.
thing, right? And
It's great.
the 2 hands.
Yeah, always in my top 6.
You could make
I'll
up a
take
name
that.
right now, and I would believe you.
Troy. I'm gonna.
Corfy Florf.
I was gonna say Klefki because it sounds fake, but it is real.
Charlazan.
Cliff?
I would say.
I feel like you
Cleft palate.
Cleft palate.
would probably like. I'm forgetting the name.
Is
of
there
the
a sorting
Pokemon.
hat that I should be wearing right now, by the way? Is that...
I mean, definitely Slytherin.
I'm exceptionally Ravenclaw. So glad we
Wait, what's my
established
Pokemon?
it. I've forgotten the name of it. what is it called? Hang on, I can Google this.
Non-memosaur.
No, it's a.
Yeah.
It's a
I love how
Forgettable.
specific. I love that you are so specific that it's one that you forgot the name of. Like that.
it's a chikorita.
That's a great
It's a chikorita.
choice.
That is a chikorito. I once dated a chikorito.
Nice.
I got drunk in a bar in Chikorito.
Like I just feel like it's something to do with the way a chikorita has for all of the Pokemon listeners, it has this like thing at the top of its head that is a leaf, but it's a very stylish leaf, and I think that's what
I applaud
inspired
that.
me.
Makes sense.
Chikorita
That
does
checks
sound
Chikorita.
decidedly feminine, which is very fitting for me as well. I'm not a very masculine guy. Of the people pictured here, I'm only second most feminine.
To Austin.
What's yours?
My favorite Pokemon is actually a Gyarados, which I feel is cheating considering Charizard. But listen, it's just that Gyarados has so much type variety and a really high special attack. But you can use most type-based moves with the Gyarados, and it's also very fast. You know, so it's
yeah.
just
No, I
a
like that
real
about
beast.
it.
It's like a water dragon that can use thunder and fire and water. Okay.
Somebody
forget that.
somebody who watches this podcast, we just gave you 30 seconds of
Solid gold.
content for you to create speech bubbles to. And if you don't do it, you don't love this podcast.
You're all fired. Go home, everyone.
Wait a minute. What is this? Mike Bithell, what day have you had today, my friend?
What's he drinking?
Look at that.
Oh, it's Friday night. We are recording
you-
on
I
Friday.
can't even
Friday
begin to
night.
guess what's in there.
Is that what it is? Are we
No, this is not. This is. I'm definitely getting tiki drinks after this, but no. For now, this is just a squash. This is fine.
You guys just went back down into a pretty serious lockdown, huh, Mike? I
God
think that
bless
happened, right?
America. London did.
I mean, we could definitely do an episode on both of our countries' current.
Well,
political
Brisbane just did
situations,
too,
right?
where my family
How
is.
many people, I want to know, when the mayor made that announcement, pulled a James Tiberius Kirk and screamed?
I like to think they. I'm going to make another Matt Berry reference and like to think that they screamed "Father" like Matt Berry would in the IT crowd. Which Troy, I just would like you to familiarize yourself with Matt Berry more, so that we
I can spell.
have, so that we can have you.
We want to bring him
mimic
up in conversation as much as possible.
charisma.
He's a very
He's
brilliant man.
he is incredible.
I don't know what this means.
Yeah,
That
you
was quite a
should.
good
You'll
impression
really
I
like
did.
it.
Yeah, I captured it.
I'm clueless.
Fire the nuclear weapons. He's just very good.
Why are you not understanding what we're talking
You know, he doesn't speak like that. It's not his real voice. Like he's got like a much harsher,
there's
like a
clips of him.
Cockney-ish voice.
Did you know he's got like records as well? You know he's a musician
Yes,
too.
and that's
like an
why Toast of
unironic
London
musician.
has a song in every episode.
Are we still talking about Pokemon right now?
Yeah, Matt
think
Berry's
this
my
is-
favorite
I think
Matt Berry
Pokemon.
is
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
still.
he
I'm trying to trace this onto Jigglypuff somehow.
Yeah, I
he
feel like
evolves into meatloaf. That's what happens.
I feel high right now. I feel like cool. Yeah,
It is
man,
weird
cool.
to talk about something that you aren't familiar with, if I'm being honest, Troy. Like, I feel like where TV and film is concerned, I expect you
Yeah.
to know all of it.
Kind of.
Didn't even
Yeah.
watch the Pokemon anime. I can't believe it. Anyway, great time to intro the show, I guess. Look at us
Is
doing
it?
it 8 minutes
It hasn't
in.
been 62 minutes
I
yet.
know.
How dare you?
It's a level of professionalism that I'm not used to.
Yeah, 8 full minutes. Hi, everyone. I'm
your
Alanah.
coffees.
I'm a video game writer. I'm joined by Mike Bithell, who is a video game director, Austin Wintry, who is a video game composer, and Troy Baker, who is a video game actor. We all work in the games industry and like to talk about games industry things every week. And I gave you an assignment this week, Mike. Did you do the assignment?
Give us 2.
Well, I kind of assigned the last one.
Yes, I will say.
Wait.
I think if you're talking about
confused
Mandalorian,
now.
Troy, that was not my assignment. I'm going to say Austin and I maybe.
I
co-opted that one.
advocated for getting caught up on Mandalorian.
I am 1 episode away.
Oh well, then it's a pointless discussion.
I figured that it would
Yeah,
be.
there's some stuff that happens in the last episode that might come up in conversation.
That's
about
what I figured.
Mandalorian,
But
so,
fucking
yeah.
Bill Burr, man.
He is awesome.
He's great, isn't he?
he's-
He's
Bill Burr is
genuinely,
fantastic.
Really good actor.
Holds a screen. Yeah.
I had the thought that, especially when watching Bill Burr in both seasons, and he's also in Breaking Bad, which is my favorite TV show ever made, that stand-up performance is just a different kind of acting. And I had not considered that before, that it is still,
It's
they
a
are still
character.
playing a character, yeah, and on stage for a long
Comedians are
time.
great actors. Like generally, like as a rule of thumb, like casting a comedian,
I mean, Ricky
9
Gervais
times out
in
of
The
10,
Office,
that's going to be okay.
that is a
Yeah.
good performance from a man who is not an actor.
Funniest thing he's done ever.
Who?
I think I would agree.
Ricky Gervais. I'm just knocking.
Oh, Ricky Gervais. Ricky Gervais is he's a fantastic actor.
Yeah, like
I mean, the
very
last
good.
show that he did. What was the last show? The dying. What is it? What was it?
Afterlife.
Afterlife. Fucking.
I
Brilliant.
haven't watched it yet, but everything I've heard about it sounds like it would blow me away.
It is equally funny as it is poignant.
But that's true of virtually everything of his.
Yeah, I think this one is remarkably more poignant. Like he's tried to do it before in some of the movies and stuff, but this one was like, wow, you went there.
I mean, even The Office to me was like
Which one?
heartbreaking. The Office. I thought it was consistently emotionally challenging.
It is extremely uncomfortable to watch in a
But,
way
like,
that the US isn't
heartbreaking.
at all. Yeah.
Yeah, the U.S.
Yeah,
one
it's a warm
softens
blanket,
that
the US
blow.
one, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it has its moments of real, genuine heart, but the Ricky Gervais just conception of the character is one that I
sorry
found
for.
myself feeling so bad for him, even
You
while
watched
finding
the
him.
documentary afterwards, the follow up.
Yeah,
Oh my god, that's the
Was.
worst one.
Yeah.
Oh, but I think there's also like for the English, for Brits, the tolerance for awkwardness and is higher than it is
Way
for-
higher because
We love a loser and hate a winner. That is
Yeah.
our national kind of. We.
I think that's in your
you don't-
anthem.
You can't. It is the.
We love a
It's the
loser.
one. It's the one non-racist line in our anthem. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's. Yeah, no, it's we don't like people who are too successful as a country. Like you have
Australia's
to
the
kind
same.
of. You have to be. Yeah, you have to kind of. You have to kind of be the charming loser, and most of our comedy is about like people who are misguided as to their own. Like look at like Alan Partridge.
Oh
right?
my
It's
god, I was
exactly
just
the
about
same
to bring
thing.
it up.
Yeah.
Like that is. I don't know if they have they ever done anything
Alan
together, Ricky Gervais and Alan Partridge, or not Alan Partridge, but
Okay, I'm just doing the whole. I'm not sure they've ever.
Reach behind you.
They're politically on very different sides of the coins, personally, so I wouldn't imagine they get on very well.
really.
Well, Steve Coogan's like a very lefty comic, and Ricky Gervais is more on your kind of
I would have
right-hand
thought
side of the coin.
Ricky Gervais was politically left, but
I think I think he's politically left, but just doesn't like.
He's
the
very
kind
like
of-
anti-SJW kind
Yeah,
of stuff.
the
I think, is his-
identitarian
He
aspect of
is-
the left, which a lot of comedians don't like because it's basically a lot of comedians are being told
makes
you're
their
not
job
allowed
harder.
to joke about this, you're not
makes
allowed
their
to joke
job harder.
about
They
Makes
to
them
be, like,
have to
funny
be-
without kicking
exactly
anyone down.
without making fun of trans people for 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's really hard to be a comedian if you can't trip someone up. But yeah, no, fair play. But no, like yeah, Steve Coogan's like a very kind of freedom of speech, but I guess actually more kind of protection from the press. So a lot of the kind of the Murdoch Empire stuff, Steve Coogan was kind of actively kind of fighting against.
Did he do
the
stand-up as
intrusion of
well,
his
or is
personal
he-
life.
I don't.
Coogan did, yeah.
Did
yeah,
he
character
really?
stuff. Yeah, he did. Like, there's some. His stuff has, I think, like a lot of comedy of the era, has aged very, very badly for a lot of the same reasons. But like, yeah, he did a lot of characters. Alan Partridge started, I think, as a stand-up character, as a character he did on stage in stand-up, before then it was developed for a radio show. But then he did do stand-up. I'm getting very boring here about the history of Steve Coogan. I feel I've
wrapped.
done a lot of Steve Coogan content on this show. Yeah, I'm a big fan.
Someone has to.
The new one.
Play
have you
Watch
listened to his
Coogan.
have you listened to his new podcast, Troy?
No.
He did Audible originally did a it's an 8-hour audiobook that's in the format of basically like his failed podcast attempt, and it's just a podcast slowly going off the rails. It's amazing. It's Alan Partridge from the Oast House. And it's
That
an
sounds
amazing,
right up my alley.
his stuff. The audiobook. There's a couple of new writers who've been working with Coogan on it for like the last few years, and it's gotten so good. Anyway,
Oh my god.
it's a whole cinematic universe. There's like 10 years of
absolutely
lore
it
to
is.
get into.
This week, and I'm sure this is maybe a good segue for something. I was actively looking, and I don't like to be that person that's like, "Fuck it, I'm out of here. I'm leaving. I'm grabbing my family to this country." But I was like, let's seriously consider what this looks like. And I looked again to Twickenham was one of the places, but like, just what does it look like to is it even feasible, or am I just dreaming? And then found out Vancouver is like I thought the prices were wrong. I was like, oh, maybe they put a comma there. That's supposed to be a decimal point. It's the most expensive place in the world to live. I was like, well, that's not going to be where I go. But it's definitely been a very interesting week. Austin, I feel, was in like the best position of all of us on that fateful day.
Yeah, I was.
Were you in the riot? Austin?
I was.
You went to the Capitol?
Yeah, I was in the front.
He's
line.
the guy with the horns.
Oh.
For legal purposes, I'm supposed to be anonymous.
I feel like maybe this podcast needs to adapt to that.
I was actually
clear.
in the studio recording and completely unplugged because I was busy. I was working at 11-hour sprint, and so I literally got into the studio at 8 a.m. and started recording. And so I basically muted my phone and put it on the conductor podium so that I could keep track of the time. And then I basically didn't look again at my phone until, like 9:30 p.m.
Mine was 5 p.m.
And it was like, what the fuck is going on?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was really quite the whiplash. I mean, it was one of those, but the result was that because the whole thing had come and gone, it, like, for all intents and purposes, the actual physical act itself had completely finished. It was sort of like the whole thing had already been reduced to a tweet length summary. So I didn't have to kind of go through the real time analysis of, which made it, I was overjoyed to be able to just by dumb luck have, gone into work basically, to do some recording. And miss the whole thing because I have a hard time turning away from things like that.
I was thinking that too. It was like that if I had been doing the work I was doing while that was also happening, how on earth would I have done the work I was doing? It's super complicated and obviously like something that I keep wanting to say never would have expected, but it was forecasted. They said they were going to do it. Which I guess I didn't know, and it just infuriating to watch the response of these people walking out of a building that they have just broken into, trespassed, and destroyed as a governmental building.
I don't get that you're allowed to walk away from that. I would have assumed that if you did that, you were shot in the head. I'm not necessarily condoning actually that should be
police executions.
I would assume you no, of course not. But I would have assumed you storm what I understand to be one of the political centers of your country, violently, aggressively invade that space. I'm shocked that they got out alive. My presumptions about American policing would be that would be a bad thing and you'd get in trouble.
I don't think you're wrong. I think that absolutely would have happened. If factors had been different, I think that could absolutely have been the case. That we would have been looking at not riots, but we would have been looking at a massacre.
I think so too.
So to me, it's
very confusing. But I did see that there were a bunch of arrests made today.
That is good. 'Cause they're on camera.
FBI is cracking down on people like, hey man. So I say, by the way, the FBI's following me on Instagram now. It's like, they're following you. You're
like
home
saying
too.
their names down the lens, right, and posting. That was the thing.
That's
so stupid.
The guy that broke into Nancy Pelosi's office and was taking photos at her desk was arrested in Arkansas. I don't know.
He did, which is also a federal crime, right? To steal someone's mail.
To do it anyway. Yeah, I mean.
No, I assume that the Capitol, storming the Capitol probably trumps it, but.
I mean, the funny thing is also that I think I saw that the police, like whoever the DC police or the FBI or whoever would be kind of in charge of this, said that they had already made a handful of arrests and they were, just getting started or something was what they said. Because I think so many people turned around and obviously fled. Like this guy was arrested in Arkansas.
Yeah, true.
So it's like a day later, he's already many states away. I bet that's true of a lot of those folks. So it's going to probably trickle in for a while. But I have a suspicion that because this is one of those things that it seems like, broadly speaking, and I know there's a lot to bring to the table about who decides to condemn it and when, but it does seem that there's basically near entire consensus across the political spectrum that all these people need to be held accountable. I mean, if even Trump is already making videos to say, you know, every one of these people needs to pay for that, it's like that. Okay. That's a surprising moment of unity.
Not to be ungenerous, but he could have done more in the run-up, right?
I prefaced it by saying you can say who could have said what and when.
Right.
Very
but it's still an
fair
indicator,
point.
As you say, right? Yeah.
I think it's an indicator that there's going to be a shitload of arrests over it might even take weeks. I mean, some of those people are probably thinking they just pulled off something akin to a spring break shenanigan, and then it's going to, like, over time, it's going to be like, no, this is going to be like a massive, like, OJ trial level event of just like person after person being prosecuted at high levels. Although the one part that I thought was really ridiculous was that it said a lot of the people, the easiest charge to get them with was violation of the COVID related curfew. And I was like, nice. that's like getting fucking Hoffa on tax evasion. Like, what a stupid fucking low hanging fruit. It's so frustrating
with that stuff. And it's, to be clear, mass arrest is probably what I would prefer to happen in any of these instances.
Absolutely.
You know, it's not that, like, some of the political discourse right now is very strongly, if this were black people who had done that to the Capitol building, the outcome would have been different. And I strongly believe that. And when I say that, I'm not saying you should have shot the white people. It's you should also not shoot the black people.
Yeah.
Like, in theory, everyone should have been treated the same way, which is question. To, you know, not be killed. Would be really nice. And it is.
The thing that's surprising is that the sort of talking point that I came across as to why the response seemed,
they found a bomb.
Yeah,
did you see that gallows?
I saw that too. I didn't know the story there. The talking point that I heard that I thought was interesting and hard to wrap my head around was from the folks that were not sort of apologists for what happened, but were trying to explain why the police response was seemingly so demure, was because they said that they were just so severely outnumbered that they couldn't, there's no reasonable way to even mount a proper defense against that. And I thought, if that is true, so be it. But how on earth were they so outnumbered? Like,
when you have a Walmart, because if it was a Walmart, they'd have.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. When you have a demonstration of the demonstration of that scale, there tends to be just basic.
God. I mean, I can understand if that's a protocol that, you know, if they're outnumbered dramatically, then things are different. I can understand that.
There's already some kind of.
I just don't see how they were outnumbered.
I don't either, because they had already, like, literally down the street, the amount of personnel it takes to cordon off an area where the president is going to be is insane. So there's
plus, you would think there would be like a standing army almost practically
around the Capitol,
around the especially while Congress is in session. It's over one of these incredibly contentious subjects.
That's the thing. Like contextualizing it, going, yo, maybe we should kind of beef up security. This is going to be really, really weird here. That makes a whole lot of sense. The thing that I don't understand is, or kind of push back at the notion is like they were just outnumbered, is when on video you see DC police moving the barricade and waving people through.
Yeah,
that was I saw that talking point in the context of explaining that video, because they said the police protocol. Again, I have no idea if this is true. I was just like, I came across this on Twitter and was like, you know, I don't know, maybe it was that the apparently police have protocol like that when their safety is basically like, if we have no reasonable way to stop this, then the safest thing for us to do is to get out of its way, because we basically are committing a death sentence on ourselves.
I can understand this.
Behind them was behind them was their entire government, though.
You'd think it was pretty important to protect. Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me.
No, I still appreciate you bringing it up, Austin.
I'm always
just don't get it.
The thing I can't abide ever is seeing 3 seconds of footage and going, I understand everything that happened here. and fuck these, and it's like whoa.
There's also a genuine moment of fear.
They spent like 10 years studying 9/11. Like
When
there's a
there's
lot
a
that
moment-
happens that is worth, especially when emotions are just wildly off the rails
for sure,
for justifiable reasons. So
there's
all
a
about
great,
the deliberate analysis.
There's a great human moment when one of the people that the point of ingress where the breach first happened, where they were holding up, and there's a look of recognition in the DC police officer's eyes when he realizes that badge, that uniform, and that gun doesn't mean anything. And it's the same moment like in A Bug's Life when all of a sudden the grasshoppers realize that they are 10-1 outnumbered. And it's the fear of like, now we're just two people and there's more of you than there are of me. And it's no longer a boxing ring, it's a street fight. And there's no decorum, there's no protocol, and there's two humans that are facing off against each other, and one of them is willing to do something that the other person is not. So there's a definite moment of humanity where it's like, well, as a cop, you should have done this. Is like, at that moment, all I saw was a father, a son, a brother, a man, and that man was terrified. So I don't necessarily say it's not his fault. There is a systemic issue that there should have been more than two people and a flimsy guard when they see there's 100,000 people or however many, tens of thousands of people that are starting to get antsy. That should have been called immediately.
And knowing full well what's going on in the session in that moment.
And they had been warned ahead of
when
time.
you guys have when you have a State of the Union, when you have like your entirety of the Congress is in place, they must up the security normally under those circumstances.
I would think it's hard to come within a mile of the damn building, I would think.
You can't. I've been in this situation before where it's like, no, this is closed off. Like, if there's ever going to be
you can't
a
even
moment,
go through Hollywood on the night of the Oscars. Like,
yeah.
the fucking State of the Union, you would think is just like the closest I could get is here in Burbank.
Am I right in saying that basically this was everyone who would be at that minus the president, basically, right? Or
I thought it was just the House, wasn't it? I don't think.
Was it the House? I don't know. It was a lot of people, though, right? It was a lot of
House and the Senate. It's a joint member of Congress, joint session of Congress.
Because it has to be. Because
and the vice president.
I hate speculating about stuff like this without us having fact checks.
Yeah.
The joint chiefs of staff weren't there. You know, there's not like I don't know if the Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of the State and Secretary of the Treasury and all those people weren't in there. But
it's a hell of a lot of the line of succession of your government if something bad were to happen in one place with what looks like on video, as you say, like some massively kind of scared, normal level couple. I've seen pictures of like your political buildings with like what looks like an army outside with like riot gear and all of this kind of big, hefty. None of that was there, and that's weird. I don't know.
No, that's what the photo is like of them on the stairs when BLM was going down, and it's like
it's the same thing as like Buckingham Palace, right? You can go right up to those guards. Now those guards are pretty much there.
People have successfully broken into Buckingham Palace quite a few times.
Yeah,
in fairness.
That's Buckingham Palace. Now that's also not 10 Downing Street or whatever. That's not. What's the address?
10 Downing Street.
Is that it?
It's next door to 9 Downing Street.
It's not across the street.
Across the road, technically.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Actually, I'm not. You know what? You joke. I'm not sure if there is. I don't know if there are houses on the other side of the street.
All right, just get yourself out of that one then.
There aren't.
Yeah.
I know where the old MI5 building is. That's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
It's a hotel. That's the only reason why I know that.
And all the rooms, if you like lean against the bookcase, it like slides over, and it's just a nightmare of missing guests. And,
my God, Mr. Crawley, is that where you've been all this time?
Yeah. But it is crazy.
It's like the Key and Peele thing of you haven't left the hotel in 50 years.
I mean, we have Guy Fawkes night for the last time someone put a bomb in our house of like where our government actually sits. Like Guy Fawkes, none of you know what Guy Fawkes is.
Yeah, of course.
How dare you, sir?
Yeah, okay.
How dare you, sir?
I was going to say the Australian one. That's,
Yeah, it's been a wild week. Hope everyone is okay out there.
There was a guy in a V for Vendetta outfit at the riot, and like the amount of political confusion that demonstrates, like in terms of like, what do you think?
V for Vendetta masks are really funny because
man.
I think a lot of people are just like, "Oh, cool mask." They don't know what it is.
I was just told that the Evite says dress festive. So it was either this or
Amazon
Easter Bunny.
cool mask and it's FIFA Vendetta.
It's like, let's not put that guy in charge of the manifesto.
It's
you know what I
so
mean? Like,
funny.
that guy's probably not. Yeah.
Every
Alana, you
time.
sound like you were going to steer us away from
No,
this
I was
crazy.
just trying to be
Please.
considerate of,
Please.
like, you know, it's a rough week for a lot of people. Watching this is mortifying for a lot of people, so want to be considerate of that while also, you know, openly speculating about it, because of course it is at the front of our minds, and 3 of us live in the country in which it happened. Generally, just hope everyone's okay. Hope everyone's doing okay, and I hope that they get those mass
I'm
arrests.
very curious
done. They
what
really fucking
happens.
should. Yeah, I'm sure we'll all keep an eye on it.
I would love for news to be boring again. Remember that? Remember I was like,
my God,
boring
no
news.
kidding.
I did realize recently that I don't hear Trump's voice anymore, and that was a nice
Like
realization.
when you close your eyes at night.
No, just like I don't necessarily see his name on Twitter every day. He's certainly not on Facebook or Instagram right now, apparently. And it was
Those 12 years, or those 12 years, those 12
Describing
hours,
2020.
12 hours as a slave, without being able to get onto Twitter were great. I was like, this is awesome.
Apparently, he was very upset. Anyway, I did give Mike Bithell the homework of watching the Medium gameplay.
Wait.
Did I watch
Before we walk away from Mandalorian, because I
Alana's
do
trying
think we.
so hard.
Well, no, just something. It's a comment that I'm happy to just deposit,
Okay.
and then I
Bill
will
Burr.
shut up. On that episode with Bill Burr, the heist one, they did something that they've never done in Star Wars before, which was actually very cool. Which is, you know, the spoilers, the thing that makes him snap and shoot the officer who is sort of talking up this battle. That battle was written for and invented for Battlefront 2, and it's the first time any of the filmed Star Wars shows / movies have essentially,
referenced?
like blessed through canon something
minute.
from a video game.
Mike's about to reach for his bookshelf.
That's not true. But you're close.
What contradicts that? I can't think of anything prior.
So it's Mandalorian. It's this season of Mandalorian, and I might be getting the episode wrong, but it's, you know, the Dark Troopers, the big robot. Those are from I think
from
it's called
Dark Forces?
Yeah,
They are. You're right.
So that was the first time. So you're right, but you're
So-
like
Wait,
2 or
don't
3
the Dark
episodes.
Troopers
Yeah.
only show up at the end? Do they show up?
No, they are there earlier, and
They're
and you
from the
see
start,
them
but you're
hinted at.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
The TPS reports made me giggle. I was like, that's great.
Yeah, that was funny. I thought also the other thing that they did that was very subtle, which I even saw it immediately on like Kotaku or somebody was or one of the, you know, Screen Rant, one of these kind of pop culture sites was like, wow, cheers to Mandalorian for tackling the most controversial thing in all of Star Wars. Is a kind of sidelined. I remember I even like paused it and turned to Anhil and goes, "Did you catch that line where they go into the base to blow it up, and they're like, this isn't a base, this is a lab," and it's that first hint of maybe why they're trying to capture the Baby Yoda, and there's like a little bit of audio, BioShock style audio of the lab director guy who says, you know, we need a specimen with a sufficient M count. And I was like,
Oh.
wow,
I didn't catch
they're just like
catch
midi-chlorians,
that at
baby.
all.
We'll hit us with it all. Like, this is Star Wars true, and we'll own all prior Star Wars. And I was like, because the whole thing of like Filoni and Favreau being like, let me show you how to do it right. I was like I just found myself with a lot of little moments like that where I thought they're fully embracing all that's on the table. And I think
What the whole of the
pretty
Clone
cool.
Wars like kind of fixes the prequels. Like, that's what that show does. That's what they did with that show.
or at least in some ways it legitimizes a little bit. It kind of becomes the glue, and they backfill so much through Clone Wars, right?
Yeah.
The thing that
like a
that
patch.
was funny to me about this season of Mandalorian,
release.
it became like a Fortnite situation. Where it was like, all right, let's go ahead and bring out the next person. And it was like Tim Oliphant, and we're going to bring out Amy Sedaris. We're going to bring out, you know, all of these different people. The thing that I thought was super cool was bringing out, what's his name? I can't remember his name. From the prequels, who was Jango Fett, to play Boba Fett. And one of the funniest lines I thought was really great, he was like, let's just say they would recognize my face. I was like, all right, that's cool. That's really cool that you guys are going to do that.
And it's the same thing with it might be in the last episode, but it's not a huge spoiler. I can't remember when Starbuck, what's her name?
Yeah, well, no, she's 2 before. Yeah.
She makes the comment where she says, I've heard your voice many times or something like that to him. Another Clone Wars reference. What's her? Cara Dune? Is that her name?
No. But dang it! Don't bring me into your. Hold on.
Starbuck.
Her name is.
I liked her a lot. I feel like I've spoken to
dinner
Austin
with
about
her.
this. How I think a lot of the performances in that show are way off.
Iffy.
In a way that
Really?
like consistently bothered me. There's a lot of just like
Katie Sackhoff.
just sometimes I
I
just
know, her
want people to
character
calm
name.
down with their faces. It's a lot of
Oh,
like
Kara. Sorry, Alanah. Shut up.
when you're upset about something. It's just too. I just wish people would calm down, and it really bothered me. But she's really
Dude,
good.
there's
I like her
there's some
performance.
performances where I'm like, even Amy Sedaris, I'm like, you're really,
Yeah.
really good. What are you doing?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love Amy Sedaris and David Sedaris. David Sedaris' writing is just, I'm a huge fan. But I was
No,
like,
but she's really capable. And
Yeah.
yeah,
I,
Strange
and,
was McCandy. It's like, what are you doing?
I
But
think
and
it's like maybe they're just directed to
Miss
be really
Caroline,
intense.
man, and in BoJack.
Princess Caroline in BoJack Horseman.
Princess Caroline. Yeah.
But she's also not on camera.
Fair.
Yeah, it's
I
facial
don't-
expressions that are the problem.
I don't know. I don't know what's happening with a lot of those performances, and there's so many plot holes. It's just so great. I was just like, okay, just go in and watch it. Like even the fact that you have to go. These are stormtroopers, right? But it's not the stormtroopers from the first one where they're all clones. These are now stormtroopers where people are enlisted and they grow up, and they,
Wait.
that whole thing.
Pause.
Go.
Stormtroopers of the Empire are
I
mostly.
knew it wasn't going to be allowed to pass.
Oh,
I
yeah,
knew
yeah.
it wasn't going to be allowed to pass. Carry on.
By the time of episodes 4, 5, and 6, those are not clones. Those are overwhelmingly conscripted,
Okay,
taken in against their will, much like Finn. In
right. My favorite scene so far of the entire show, I think.
I gotta earn my.
No.
No, it's cool, man. It's cool. It's
Is-
important that we stick to the facts when talking about important subjects like
Exactly.
Star
I feel
Wars.
the same about
Everything
Star Wars
else
as
you
I
heard.
do
I've heard
political
this happen.
analysis.
The two
We have to
the-
wait several years as the Mandalorian dust settles to fully be able to,
Understand what's going on, yeah.
dispassionately.
It's wrong to speculate at this stage. Yeah.
Exactly.
The Imperial troopers, and I can't remember what their designation is. The guy from Jedi or Return of the Jedi, that are on the speeder bikes. Those two guys, the choice for them to just sit and stay on them. They're waiting for them to open the gate or whatever, and they're just having to sit.
You mean in season 1?
No, in season 2, they're like they've got the child, and they're seriously like, let me see it. And there's just a conversation between these two
That's
guys. And
season 1. That's the
Yeah,
last
I feel like
episode
that's
of
season
season
one.
1.
Oh, shit.
That's
Okay,
the
so
one
I've
that
been watching
Taika
it back to back.
Waititi directed, and it was like
Yeah.
a
That's
revelation.
why it's so good, because them
Yeah.
pulling out their blasters and trying to shoot the can that's 10 feet away.
Isn't that a couple of like quite well-known American comedy actors as well? Isn't it like Jason Bateman or something?
No.
One of those.
Could be something. I
Probably.
remember thinking.
It's one of them. It's a couple of like American. I can't remember who it was.
I need
It's
to
not
look
like
up who it was
Mexican
Yeah,
because it was
I'm on
it was
it. I need to
fucking
know
brilliant.
that
I
too.
was howling laughing. It was so funny.
That was the last episode or the second to last of season 1, and I agree.
Yeah.
That was one of the highlights of the show.
I also
Like I would clip that out and just show it to anybody and go, "This is why you should watch this show." But it's such a western. It's such an homage to Sergio Leone. It's which not good
90s
performances.
TV serials, like
Totally.
episodic 90s TV as well.
Yeah, it's Touched by
There's,
an
like, Doctor
Angel. It's
Quinn
Quantum
or
Leap.
Quantum Leap.
It's
You-
all
you're-
of
There you go.
that.
So at the same time. Yeah.
I
You're
love you.
right.
love
You're
you
right,
too.
Mike. Adam Pally, who I don't know who that is, was one of the bikers, but then Jason Sudeikis was the other one.
That
There you go.
makes
It was.
sense.
That's who it was.
Jason Sudeikis had to be, if you're watching a guy on the right, because he was the leader.
Yeah, my
That's
only issue with
funny.
that bit was that I felt like it was like they took the essence of Taika, which naturally he did, and then put it into a scene, and I feel like it's so different from everything else in the entire show. It just feels like this is the Taika Waititi scene. Here you go, take this, and I was like, I will.
mean, the Rodriguez episode had a certain amount of like, oh, this is Rodriguez doing the Rodriguez.
It must
thing
be
as
fun
well.
for them to
There's
make.
definitely-
The making of stuff is really
I'm
interesting
sure.
for that show too. Like all the behind the scenes stuff is really, really fascinating. I highly recommend watching it. Obviously, the way they shot it, we've spoken about a bunch of times, being mostly just one giant screen in LA. I think it's in Culver.
No, I think it's Marina Del Rey.
I'd believe you. They're close by. It's fine. Vaguely the same area.
And you know who directed the season finale? Is
This season?
Yeah, the one
Don't
that
tell
Troy
me.
has not watched.
Don't tell me.
You don't want to know the director?
You don't know who the director is? Is that
No,
too
George
honestly,
spoilers?
no, because
Okay.
it will. I will watch it through a certain lens if I know.
It'll tell you what to expect. I've liked Bryce Dallas Howard's stuff. Like the
I didn't in season 1.
Yeah, season 1 was the one with the like ATST.
Yeah.
It was. I can spell.
Oh, the Magnificent Seven episode.
Yeah,
Yeah.
total magnificent Samurai 7.
Yeah.
It was that whole thing. I was like, I don't understand her as a director.
Well,
I'm not saying she's bad. I
they
just don't
speak
understand.
about that a little bit in the making of 2, and that I think that's probably the weakest episode of that season. And they were pretty clear about thinking that she kind of got the raw end of the stick, and that it was one of the hardest episodes to direct. And I won't speak on that behalf. If you want to go watch that, totally check it out. But they do dive into that in a really interesting way. Because I really didn't like that episode. I was like, that's where I was like, oh no, like very much fell off of it. But then I feel like in season 2, it's a different ball game. I guess that's
she did the water one, right? The fish people one.
yes.
Yeah, exactly.
I think.
Which I liked
the
a lot
second
more.
series, which is great.
Yeah.
I think
I
that
love- I
overall,
want
That was
to play
cool.
a game set on that planet. That was a fun planet.
Yeah, that was fun, and it's still super cool to see the X-wings. Like every time they pull in something from like original OG whatever, it definitely makes me go like that. Once that one thing was like, go ahead, still gonna need that ping. Like that note right there was super cool, and also when you just see them go and like the X-wing come out, I was like, yay!
It's a very fan servicey show. Like it's very
But it's
blatant about it.
But it still
Which is a
also
little
hits on
off-putting
2
to,
levels.
Like a casual fan like me, I get a little bit annoyed when like I can tell that an emotional impact is based on you recognizing a character from Clone Wars.
Interesting.
And it's every now and again because you can. It's almost like when you watch like an old Hollywood musical or old Hollywood comedy where they pause for the laugh and it's like theater. Like they're waiting. They know you're gonna. They're expecting you to react to it. So there's a lot of times where I'm watching it and like a character will appear and the music will swell and I'll be like.
Who?
Who is
That's
that?
interesting.
Is
Austin,
that-
what were you going to say there?
Yeah, sorry.
I mean, I don't entirely disagree, but I do think that the fan service, at least with respect to comparing it to the sequel trilogy, is how to do it correctly, because
Yeah.
That's fair.
it
That's
makes
fair.
it makes a lot of deep cut that's like there. It's not for the casual observer, and it also is like not. It's of secondary importance, generally speaking. It's not. I don't think it hinges. Like you could watch the show having never watched any Star Wars ever, and I feel like
still
you'd be
get it.
just as invested in the
Yep.
dynamic between.
Oh, it's
you know,
definitely like taught
Grogu
me who
and-
those characters are.
Yeah.
Like I get it.
Like, and it's
Also,
also
like-
telling me that Rosario Dawson is beautiful in any
Yeah, this movie's
situation, just
Okay.
anything. She's always a badass. She's always gorgeous, and she's always good.
Yeah,
That's
she's
fair.
getting her own show as Ahsoka too, which is pretty cool.
Sure.
That
It's like 50 Star Wars shows now.
there
Like,
are
that's-
quite a few of them coming. There's like the third extra X-wing pilot's got a show.
We're gonna do it all.
Yeah. The one thing I also will add, I know I promised a single comment, and here we are 10 minutes later. But the other thing that I will add that I'm very appreciative of, which probably comes as no surprise, but I think Ludwig's music on the show is, broadly speaking, the best contribution to Star Wars since the prequel trilogy. I think he outperforms even John Williams' music on the sequel films, which I found generally not that interesting.
I think I agree with that. I don't
by
remember most of it, other than Ray's
Yeah,
theme.
like I like Ray's theme kind of on its own, even though I think it stacks up poorly against the giant catalog of brilliant themes that he's done. It just happened. It just was the best part.
Music.
That's the thing. The prequel scores, everybody. That's one of the few things everybody agrees on about the prequels. And but I thought there would have Ludwig and his collaborators in the form of Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau and the various directors and whatnot. They do a good job at avoiding musical fan service as well. And in fact, it was noticeable that the only time I ever saw, there's two that I can think of, quotes of existing Star Wars material. One I will not mention because it's in the final episode. And that whole final, Ludwig won an Emmy whilst at the Fox scoring stage recording the last episode. He won the Emmy for season 1 while they were literally tracking episode 8 of season 2, and I wouldn't be surprised if that score wins him a second, and fully deserved. That score and all the Dark Troopers business, reconciling that.
I need to go get another cup of coffee. Do you want to get this off you, and I'll go get a cup of coffee?
No. You do you, but I promise no spoilers. All I was going to say is that the invocation of Yoda's theme in the Ahsoka episode was the one, and it was a drive-by thing, but it was unmistakable, and I was like, it's the only time I've heard him quote anything from the existing.
Do you think that's also out of creative choice, or I mean, I know that there's been getting that music has been really challenging. Do you think there's any reason why they would have preferred to have pull in these familiar themes, but couldn't because of some legality, or do you think it is purely creative?
They don't at all.
100%. Yeah, they own it all. 100%.
I mean, they're not shy about using elsewhere, right? Like,
yeah.
If I were directing a Mandalorian episode, I'd be like, Jewel of the Fates, Jewel of the Fates, Jewel of the Fates.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I think it's to their credit that they resist that,
Yeah,
because that's exactly the thing that the sequel trilogy suffers from. Like quoting verbatim when Ghost Luke pulls the X-Wing out of the water, the whole long sequence verbatim of that exact cue when Yoda does that on Dagobah and Empire Strikes Back. Like, it's the laziest thing. And I watched an interview with John Williams where it was very clear this was not his idea. He very tactfully was like, yeah, so the suggestion was we could maybe reprise the piece. And I was like, yeah, I could see him rolling his eyes in the back of his mind.
Also, I've never heard someone say quoting verbatim in terms of like reusing music. Is that a commonly accepted term?
That I don't know. But Star Wars is definitely full of that in practice. George Lucas constantly yanked his music around, and like episode 2 is full of music from episode 1, and like
is that
there's a lot
the
of
point of a theme though, is to be
no I mean like literally John Williams wrote something, they were like, thank you very much, shove it aside, grabbed this other thing he wrote and just stuck it in instead.
They're like playing the soundtrack album onto the film is what
kind of, yeah.
so
Return of the
Jedi,
Jedi,
like source music as opposed to
no, because source music means it's coming from within the world and that the characters can actually hear it as part of the diegesis, but they're just licensing it as if it was score music that he had written, but he wrote it for a different scene for a different film.
I've misunderstood that term. I've always heard like a source cue is we're going to put in David Bowie's Let's Dance. But that's only happening. You're saying that's only true.
Source means there's an actual on-camera or implied on-camera source. Like a radio, like if you're in a doctor's office and you hear "Girl from Ipanema" coming through like a scratchy overhead PA system, the camera doesn't have to show you that, but no one watching that would fail to understand why there's music in the scene.
And so the
only place they've done that is the Imperial March in Solo.
Oh God, the worst! What a heinous crime that was.
I learned some stuff today.
Mandalorian, how does that happen then? That's my biggest question with Mandalorian, because it is such an iconic and original soundtrack in a universe which, like you say, has been kind of like leaning heavily on the grades. How does that happen? Is that Favreau? And
it's Favreau. So
wanting...
I can tell you from personal experience, and I hope I'm not.
Or is Ludwig just a genius? Like, I assume that's probably true as well.
He absolutely is. But because for those who aren't aware, the fact that Tenet came out, never mind. I haven't even seen the film, but the fact that he tossed that score.
Truly seen that film? I don't know.
Well, yeah,
it's more of an experience.
The fact that Christopher Nolan has been working with Hans Zimmer for like 15 years, and when Hans basically said, "I'm not available to do this film because of Dune," his commitment to work with Denis Villeneuve on Dune. And his just single-minded obsession with making sure to get that score right, Nolan went to Ludwig, which was, to me, that was some of the biggest news in the composer world, because Nolan could literally, there's no one who will not take his call. No composer. I mean, I remember a few years ago, this was probably 20 years ago, Denzel Washington was directing for the first time. And every composer, like James Horner and people like that, were calling and saying, "I'll do it for free."
What did he direct?
For the life of me, I can't remember what movie it was.
It's oh God,
Deja Vu 2.
I'm fairly certain that he ended up hiring Michael Dana, but
terrible.
It was really bad, Troy.
Oh, it's so bad.
I never actually saw Deja Vu. For the
you
record.
don't need to.
Oh, it's fun. Come on now. That's
I think I had a fun
Scott
time.
classic.
Hey,
I
related,
have-
I tried to
Fun
watch
movie.
Wonder Woman and turned it off.
I don't want to.
Opening scene's great. That
Sure.
like Richard Donner
Yeah.
kind of vibe. Yeah.
It was
I wasn't
Antoine Fisher,
Upset about it. I was
2002.
just bored.
That's right.
There you go.
19 years ago. But to your question, Ludwig is a genius. Yes, he really is. And for those who don't even know the extent of it, when he's not writing fabulous scores like Mandalorian, like Creed, Black Panther, for which he won an Oscar, he and Childish Gambino are writing songs together, like This Is America and Redbone, for which they have won 2 Grammys and 4
So
additional
he just
nominations.
Needs the Tony then. He just needs the Tony.
He's only missing the Tony. He
Wow.
at
Has to do the
age
musical.
at age 36, he's
He's 36.
he and
He
I are
looks younger than that.
we're 5 days apart in age. Funny enough, he's 5 days older than me.
I thought
And,
you were 50. I thought you were older than
Whole
me.
time.
It's all in the look, but no. So yeah, he's a fab. He also co-wrote a lot of the songs in the Trolls movie with Justin Timberlake that came out at the beginning of lockdown. He's
That makes
a
me wanna
genuine
watch that movie.
beast. He's a fabulously talented guy. And what I started to say in terms of your actual question of how does it happen, or it was Mike you asked. You can't tell that I'm gesturing at Alanah on my screen. I should have just kept my mouth shut. The answer is, so Ludwig's wife is a good friend, and she's the violinist that I work with on a lot of things, named Serena. And she, I remember we were recording something here at the studio a couple years ago, and the news had just come out like that day or earlier that week or something that Ludwig had been hired to score The Mandalorian, which was still shooting. It was basically known that there was a thing coming, but nobody knew what it was yet or whatever. But they did announce that Ludwig was writing the music, and I said, hey, tell him congrats. That's a fabulous thing. I can't wait to hear what he does with it. And she said basically Favreau brought him into the office and said, your stuff is super weird, and that's what we want. Like he basically specifically said, we are not looking for a John Williams wannabe. We're looking for an artist who actually will bring and imprint something on this that makes it its own thing. And
That's superb.
boy,
That's
did they
great.
get it.
How cool though, how smart a move to do, because every instinct with Star Wars must just be pulling you towards just play the hits.
Oh,
Yeah.
for
Again,
sure.
as a Star Wars
Favreau
fan,
for
that's the thing I would want to do. I'd be like, but can my scene have that? It's really tough to not do it.
I thought, to me, the only successful, ironically, the weakest film far and away is Solo. And yet it had, at least prior to Mandalorian, one of the greatest scores, because John Powell wrote that score, and it was really clear from listening to it that he was deliberately trying to absorb a lot of John Williams isms, but there's also so much that defines John Powell. He has such a strong voice that it really almost felt like John Powell and John Williams had a baby, and it's called Solo. But they do lapse into fan service, like using the escaping the Death Star, fighting the TIE fighters from episode 4, using that cue, Alanah, verbatim, in the middle of Solo was just like a blatant fan servicey moment that had nothing to do with the movie and was so just bafflingly weak. And it didn't seem like it was John Powell's idea. So yeah, it's like, even in a situation where you have this amazing world-class composer who is doing all kinds of awesome things, like the Bulgarian women's choir for those like bounty hunter whoever who end up being like the seed of the rebellion or whatever the fuck was going on with that. Like a lot of really interesting musical choices that he's doing, but he was still so constrained by this obsessive, you must make it fan servicey. And yeah, it's a shame. So this one sidestepped that just magnificently.
A director who knew how to step out of the way
and had the courage to do so, and I loved this little meme that got thrown around of like a photo of J.J. Abrams saying it is impossible to please fans of the original films and like younger new audiences or something like that. And then just Favreau below saying, hold my beer. And it was like, yeah,
How much money has he made for Disney? Like between that and Marvel, like
it's unreal.
It's ridiculous.
We over the break, I said to Angel, you know, a movie you've never seen, and with all this fucking Favreau in our head, we just have to watch is Rudy. And
Wow.
he's so charming in that movie. He's so good as just this unbelievably awkward guy. And I was like, can you imagine watching this and just thinking like that guy is going to be one of the single most like driving forces of our culture a couple of decades later. I mean, to just kind of like birth the MCU, hand that off and be like, okay, what's next? Let's do the Jungle Book because I got this idea for the Lion King. All right, what's next? Star Wars. Let's do Star Wars next. And it's like,
have you ever seen
man.
Made?
No.
It is. It's after Swingers, and it's when it's he and Vince Vaughn teaming back up again. But if you want to be like, oh, I forgot that guy was an actor.
And he's so good. Swingers, holy shit. That phone voicemail scene is like one of the great monologues ever.
Yes. You need to watch Made. And also Chef. Like
he directed Made.
Chef's great.
Chef is great. But Made is all about, it's for someone especially has a British sensibility as far as the awkward and just like this guy. If you've ever had a friend where you're like, I want to apologize for my friend. Like if you think that's bad in Swingers, watch Made. It is so bad. And Sam Rockwell is in it in just a hilarious capacity. It is so funny. It is so funny and so good.
I've definitely never seen
I've heard horror stories about Jon Favreau as a director. But I also just believe that he's incredibly particular, and
I have heard he's very intense. Yeah,
he's yelled at kids.
Yeah.
Well, maybe those kids should get that shit together.
He
considered little Hitchcockian.
I shouldn't say who it is because this was told to me in confidence. But there's a composer that he was considering for Iron Man before they ended up with Ramin Djawadi, where he met with the composer, and this is a very, very well-known composer. And Favreau goes, I really think we should have like electric guitar and orchestra, you know, because it's going to be like, it's Iron Man, you know, we want to invoke like, you know, Black Sabbath and AC/DC and Metallica, and like, so the score should be doing the same thing. And composer goes, you know, the problem with like heavy metal and orchestra is that it ends up sounding like WWE, and it doesn't really like feel what you think it feels like. And so, you know, he's like, I would strongly encourage we not do that, or something kind of diplomatic of like, I don't know if you're going to like that as much as you think or whatever in the meeting. At which point Favreau's like, okay, cool. Thanks for coming in. And then calls the agent and goes, that client is one of the most arrogant assholes I have ever I don't ever want to talk to them again. Blah, 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 blah. And
amazing.
Was very upset and did not hire this person.
Well, I have to go. I never got to ask my fucking question. If we could just keep it real simple, this is now a Mandalorian
Ask
episode.
me a question. I'll do it in 2 sentences for you, Alanah. What's your question?
The medium, the way that it, by the way, Troy, great work. It splits. You know, you're effectively, is it 2 game worlds in real time, and how is that different to the way that split screen co-op functions?
It's very similar to the way split screen co-op functions. It's actually technically not super difficult, which only shows how brilliant a creative choice it is. It's there are technical challenges to it, and there's some places you can see in that gameplay demo some stumbling in terms of video playback with one of the cutscenes. It's playing video in the bottom half, but live gameplay in the top with some frame rate stutters. There are some interesting things going on there, and they've taken the idea and run with it. But the reality is that the most decent kind of game developers could prototype something similar very quickly, which is a testament to why the hell has people not done that, how brilliantly creative a solution to the problem, and how
the first
nice
that
an
I've seen
idea.
to do it. I'm really excited about that.
Exactly. It's basically, from a technical standpoint, you've nailed it. It's basically like doing co-op split screen. All you have to do is drive 2 characters simultaneously. What they probably are doing, I would assume, is actually those worlds are absolutely the same world, just being with different assets being rendered on the 2 different cameras. Which again, we talked about how first-person shooters do that with your gun, and how your gun isn't actually, it's all of the same stuff. So yeah,
I would love to talk to you at some point about how demanding split screen co-op could be, because it never even occurred to me before watching that medium footage and being like, is this the same as split screen co-op? How difficult is that versus just playing?
There's a good reason that everyone really wanted to jump to Xbox Live. Like the co-op is, it's technically can be very challenging, but doable. Like it's been doable since N64.
That's true. Austin, what's happened to you?
I've been shamed for ruining your
Just one quick comment about The Mandalorian, and now I have to title the episode something to do with Mandalorian. God damn it.
Don't you dare. Is like Mike Bithell answers the hard questions about medium.
On the medium.
And if people look, by the way, the episode you said was like people gave us so much shit on Cyberpunk, that has one of the most views we've ever had.
Yeah, I knew it would.
So,
it needs to be controversial.
But it's also what I meant with that headline was a thing that I think it's not at all clickbait, because my point was that I kept bringing up Cyberpunk. I kept trying to talk about it, and we kept getting off track. It's exactly what the show is.
That's what I'm saying. It's like Mike Bithell answers, and someone's gonna drop it in. It's like he answers in 58 minutes.
Because it's really totally do it. But that's the fact that the split screen when she's talking to the girl in the cutscene, you've got video playing in the bottom half, and what looks to be gameplay footage that's kind of stuttering a little bit because it's not been optimized. It's not a release game yet. That's a really interesting insight into the kind of decisions that are maybe made for a gameplay demo or trailer that. I would be surprised if that goes in the same way in game. I imagine it was a decision made quickly, because what you would do is either you'd render the whole screen as a video. My assumption, and again probably completely wrong, is that cutscene in game isn't actually shown from those two views, but because they wanted to showcase that feature, they pulled an effect.
I mean, Troy, do you know the answer to that?
If I know the answer to which, sorry.
Does that cutscene with the girl, where she's talking to the little girl? Does that actually? I think that I don't think that presents as a split screen in the actual game. I think that's a choice they've made. I'm not saying they're being dishonest. I think they're just showcasing a feature from elsewhere in the game in the bit they're showing there.
That is the same cutscene that they just shot 2 cameras for. Because you're not live action at that point.
But is it presented that way?
One of them is being rendered in real time, I think, and one of them is being rendered video just from the frame rates. I guess, I don't know.
But you're not on the stick.
No, you're not on the stick, but it's being rendered via
one is pre-rendered, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then one is actually happening in engine, essentially.
But that's interesting. Yeah, that's not traditionally, that's not how you would do it in the actual pipeline, because the reason there's some video stutter, again, all presumption would be because it's tough to run a video and gameplay. It's harder to run video and gameplay simultaneously than split screen gameplay for various reasons. It feels like one of those choices that was made for a cool demo, but actually in game it would be either all pre-rendered or all real time.
Yeah, there was something in that demo that I kind of stuck out to me that was like gameplay not final, and it was like they've been working on this game for a while. Just a brief synopsis on this, and then Alanah, I need you to go.
You need me to go?
Yeah, get the hell out of here. Please make Troy the host.
I do need to go.
We've all got places to be.
This was one of the first time that I ever went to DICE, not as a, hey, I'm going to go hang for the party and drinks and the awards show, was this year. And it was one of the last times that I was on a plane. And the last meeting that I had before getting on that plane, Austin and I had coffee, and then he left, and I said, I've got one more meeting that I got to go to, and it was with the Bloober team, and
as I recall, you said I have to go meet some Polish people.
I've got to meet some Polish people, and we met in the lobby of the Aria, and we sat down, and they showed me, it was like, we want to work with you on this game. Here's the character, and we sat there for about an hour and a half having coffee, and I was like. They showed me also who's the composer of the music is. I think they've announced that, have they?
I'm almost certain it's 2 people.
There's an internal team, and there's some that they did brought in. Just in case they haven't hit that beat. I don't want to.
I don't know if that's public either. So
but I will say this: that I heard like a bar, and I know who that is, and it's really, really cool. So that was another thing that drew me to that as well. Honestly, was the composer. It was also the team's their pedigree and the legacy of titles that they've done before. Is like, you guys do a lot with very little. And it's a huge team. It's like for their size, it's like 120 people I think on the team. So this was
the
something
composers
that
are public.
Huh?
The composers are public. That has
Okay,
been
cool.
announced.
So it was Akira Yamaoka, and I heard like a bar,
And
I was like,
Arkadiusz. It's worth
Correct.
not sweeping under the rug. Our friend who also scored like Blair Witch and Layers of Fear 1 and 2.
Both of which I love.
I actually just got an email from Arik this morning. He was sharing the score with me. Good dude, really good
Yeah,
dude.
I had the pleasure of conducting his music in concert in Poland.
Really? I'll send you this link. I'm sure he would love to have it. He'd send me the score.
He's
But
a
I
good dude.
did that
Really nice
game
guy.
in there.
Oh, no way.
I was supposed to go to Poland and do the full performance capture and everything else, and they ended up. There's a lot of members that because of COVID, they're like, we have to shoot this, and so they shot it very very quickly. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to be. I wanted to be on set, and they were gonna like put me on stilts and all this kind of cool stuff. So that team was able to any team that was able to put a game out this year or last year is truly a phenomenal feat. So I can't say
They
enough
did delay
about,
a month, didn't they?
and that's all that
Losers,
do.
the lot of them.
Yeah, no, obviously a lot of people did.
Incredibly stylistic, cool choice.
I agree. I'm really excited about it. I really like everything that they do. I
That
love
gameplay
Layers
sold
of
me
Fear.
on it for sure. Looks
It's
great.
very very
We
interesting, super
We
stylish.
should do an episode on gameplay demos and why developers do the things we have to do in those demos at some point, because that is because it's so often framed as like developers lying, and actually there's lots of very good reasons
for
for a lot
sure,
of those
yeah.
processes. We should definitely do an episode on that.
I would love that because I feel it's a really interesting cross section to show. It's like there's so much stuff that you don't know about that they kind of drop you
It's
in.
such a weird point. The point where you're doing those kind of marketing materials is such a weird moment in most game devs cycle. So it's a really tough, interesting.
Yeah, especially when you have to
thing.
showcase features that aren't finished and you don't know if you're going to be
Or
able
aren't
to ship
necessarily
a
at
whole
that
game.
point in the game. Super interesting.
The one more thing I was going to say about, sorry, just on Mandalorian is
What?
Yeah,
no,
let's-
just the
let's
last
do it.
thing.
Let's do it.
If you
Yeah.
took one of the
Hi, I'm
hosts,
Alanah. I used to be a game writer.
the host for Deal or
Oh,
No
works
Deal,
at Sony.
and you put him in an
Full
80s car, Howie Mandel in a DeLorean, is that a
All right.
Mandalorian?
Anyway, see ya, everyone.
Was that worth costing Alanah her job?
I had to Google some of this stuff too, guys.
That is so
Oh, I hate
fired.
you so
I looked
much.
at Mandalorian. I was like, what if you spelled it Mandelo? Is that
I
a
spell it wrong
Mandalorian?
all the time. I always spell Mando because
It's 'cause
of
they
the show
call
they
it
have
I
Mando.
hate this show.
It's actually a
at
feminine
this
term,
point, I've switched off
Mandalorian.
the podcast. If
You're
I'm
right.
listening.
Even
If
I
I'm-
have. All right.
Yeah.
See ya,
Bye.
everyone.